All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're going deep on BLS International Services.
Sounds good.
They're a global force, tech-enabled services, working with governments, working with citizens.
Yeah.
Two big focuses for them: visa and consular services and digital services.
The
And we've got a fresh stack of documents, hot off the press, their Q2 FY25 financials, so we're going to unpack all of that today.
Looking forward to it.
And spoiler alert, they're reporting their highest ever financial performance, so
Oh, wow.
get ready for some big numbers.
Yeah, it's quite a milestone for them. Q2 FY25, they pulled in a massive 495 crores in revenue.
Whoa,
That's a 21.4% jump compared to the same time last year.
huge jump.
And their EBITDA, even more impressive.
Yeah.
A whopping 164 crores.
No way.
Almost 90% growth year on year.
That's incredible. So let's break down the why, the how, the what's driving the success.
Sure.
And I think a good place to start would be their visa and consular business, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Their investor presentation, phenomenal growth there.
It's a major engine for them. Ours 417.6 crores in Q2. Almost a 30% jump year on year.
Wow. And I know they've made some, really strategic moves, haven't they?
They have. The shift from a partner-run model to a self-managed one has been huge.
Yeah, tell me about that. What does that mean for people who aren't familiar?
So basically, instead of relying on other companies, they're bringing everything in-house.
Ah,
More
yeah.
control, better margins.
Streamlining.
Exactly.
And then there's the iData acquisition, right?
Yes, that's been a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
iData, they're a Turkish visa processing powerhouse.
Powerhouse, yeah. They've been around forever, right?
Since 2005.
Uh-huh.
Focus on Germany, Italy, Czech Republic consulates, 37 visa application centers across 11 countries.
So they've got this massive network, serious expertise. No wonder BLS scooped them up.
It was a smart move for sure.
And the results speak for themselves.
Absolutely.
Visa applications are up over 40% year on year.
Yep.
Revenue per application jumped almost 45%.
They're not just processing more applications, they're doing it more efficiently.
It's like they're hitting this sweet spot of volume and profitability.
They've got the formula down pat.
And, it's not just about visas, right? They're making these really interesting moves to diversify.
Exactly.
Citizenship Invest, SLW Media, these
Are there interesting additions? Yeah.
Citizenship Invest, they help high net worth individuals with long-term visa solutions.
Think residency options, even citizenship in other countries.
Wow.
And then you have SLW Media, a sports management firm. It's a move into premium lifestyle services.
So they're not just playing the visa game, they're
thinking bigger.
tapping into these emerging trends.
Exactly.
Global mobility, premium services, it's smart.
Very forward thinking.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of the coin, their digital services segment, I know it didn't see quite the same explosive growth,
Yeah, true.
but it still held its own, right?
It did, absolutely. Our 77.4 cores this quarter.
Not too shabby.
And it's important to remember, this segment is multifaceted. Business correspondent services, e-governance, assisted e-services, they're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, so break it down for me. What do these digital services actually mean for BLS, for their customers?
So basically, they're leveraging technology to make a whole range of services more accessible.
Okay.
Think banking services for those in rural areas, government services, streamlining those processes.
So they're not just about visas, they're about making life easier.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's dive into each of these, starting with business correspondent services.
All right, so they're BC business. They're all about financial inclusion,
Right.
bringing banking services to underserved populations, folks in rural areas, those who might not have easy access to a traditional bank.
So kind of bridging that gap.
Exactly. Think being able to open a bank account, deposit money, check your balance, transfer funds, all without having to travel miles to a bank branch.
Oh, that's huge.
It is, especially in a country like India, where a large portion of the population lives in rural areas.
So how are they actually doing this? What's the setup?
They've got this massive network, over 29,700 customer service points,
Yeah.
CSPs as they call them,
Okay.
and over 121,000 touch points across India.
Wow.
So these are essentially local businesses, small shops, kiosks, even individuals who act as representatives of BLS and provide these financial services to their communities.
Ah, that's smart, utilizing existing infrastructure.
Yeah, it's very efficient. And it's working. In Q2 alone, they handled over 3.6 crore transactions,
3.6 crore.
with a gross transaction value exceeding ours 20,000 crores.
That's a serious chunk of change.
It is. And they're not just facilitating transactions, they're also playing a key role in generating loan leads for financial
Oh,
institutions.
how so?
So through their network, they're able to identify individuals and businesses who might be in need of loans,
Okay.
and they connect them with the right financial institutions.
Acting as a matchmaker.
Exactly. And in Q2, they generated loan leads worth around Rs 4,000 crore.
So they're not just serving the unbanked, they're actually becoming a valuable partner for financial institutions.
Absolutely. They're a vital link in the financial ecosystem.
It's like they're filling this huge void in the market.
They are, and they're doing it very effectively.
So from visa applications to digital banking services, it seems like BLS is really becoming this one-stop shop for citizen services.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Both in India and abroad.
They've got a global footprint and a diverse portfolio of services.
And a knack for spotting these emerging trends and capitalizing on them.
Absolutely. They're a company to watch.
For sure.
They're innovating, they're growing, they're making a real impact.
All right, so we've got a good grasp on their operations now, but let's dive into the nitty-gritty of their financials next.
Let's do it.
We'll unpack their balance sheet, their cash flow, all that good stuff when we come back.
Sounds good. Back with you now, ready to dig into those financials.
Let's do it.
We'll start with the consolidated results, get that big picture view.
So this is BLS International as a whole, all their subsidiaries rolled into one.
Exactly. And looking at their Q2 FY25 consolidated revenue from operations,
Yeah.
a 21.4% jump year on year, they hit Rs 495 crores.
Okay, so that lines up with what we saw in their investor presentation.
It does.
Now, can you break that revenue down for me? Like, where's it coming from?
Sure. The lion's share comes from their visa and consular services segment. A significant Rs, 417.6 crores.
Right.
The remaining Rs, 77.4 crores, is attributed to their digital services.
Okay, so even though digital services saw a slight dip year on year, it's still a significant contributor.
It is.
And I imagine it's got huge potential for growth, as India's digital landscape keeps evolving.
Absolutely. It's still in its early stages, but there's a lot of room to run.
Exciting times. All right, let's move on to consolidated EBITDA.
Okay, so for Q2, we're looking at an impressive Rs, 164 crores.
Impressive is an understatement, right? That's an 89.1% year-on-year growth.
It is.
And their EBITDA margin for Q2 FY25, a healthy 33.1%.
Up from 21.3% in the same quarter last year.
Big jump.
Big jump.
So is it safe to say that this success, this profitability, is a direct result of those strategic moves we talked about earlier?
I think it's a major factor. The shift to a self-managed model,
Yeah.
the iData acquisition, these have clearly enhanced their efficiency.
And their bottom line.
Exactly. They're demonstrating a real knack for understanding the market
Yeah.
and leveraging their strength.
Now, what about the performance of the core BLS International entity itself? Like, leaving aside the subsidiaries, how are they doing?
Good question. So their standalone results give us that view.
Okay.
And as you might expect, the scale is different. Their standalone revenue from operations for Q2 FY25 is Rs 34.2 crores.
Significantly smaller than the consolidated figure.
Right, because this is just the parent company, not all the subsidiaries.
Makes sense.
But even on a standalone basis, we're seeing healthy growth,
Okay.
a decent year-on-year revenue increase. And their Q2 standalone EBITDA stands at Rs 18.1 crores, reflecting a robust profit margin.
So even without their subsidiaries, the core BLS business is holding its own.
It is. They've got a solid foundation.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about their cash management strategy.
Okay.
Their consolidated statement of cash flows, that's always a key indicator of financial health, right?
It is. It tells you how well they're managing their cash.
And what's the story there?
Well, for the half year ended September 30, 2024, their net cash flow from operations reached Rs 34.1 crores.
That's a very healthy number.
It is. And it's being driven by a few things. First, their core businesses are generating strong profits.
Right.
And second, their efficient working capital management, that negative working capital situation we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
They're collecting cash from customers faster than they're paying suppliers.
So money's coming in quickly.
Exactly. Keeps the cash flowing.
So profitability combined with smart cash management.
A winning combination.
And what does this positive cash flow mean for their growth strategy?
It's crucial. It gives them the financial muscle to invest in new technologies, pursue acquisitions, expand into new markets.
And they can do all of this without taking on a lot of debt.
Exactly. They're not beholden to lenders. They can move quickly and seize opportunities.
That's a real advantage in today's market.
It is.
All right, let's move on to their balance sheet now.
Okay.
This gives us a snapshot of their assets, liabilities, and equity, right?
It does. It's like their financial report card.
So what's the verdict?
Well, one thing that immediately jumps out is their remarkably low debt level.
Okay.
As of September 30, 2024, they had zero debt.
Zero.
Zero. And that really speaks volumes about their asset-light business model and their disciplined financial management.
They're running a tight ship.
They are. And this low debt level gives them tremendous financial flexibility.
Okay, in what way?
Well, they're not burdened by hefty interest payments.
Right.
And they have the capacity to borrow if needed to fund future growth.
So they've got options.
Yeah, they do. And their strong equity position is another noteworthy aspect.
Okay.
Shareholder equity as of September 30, 2024, stood at a healthy Rs 142.8 crores.
So a solid foundation of ownership.
Exactly.
And that contributes to their financial stability.
It does. This strong equity position, combined with their low debt and robust cash flow, gives investors confidence.
Makes them an attractive investment proposition.
For sure.
Now, what about their standalone balance sheet? Does that paint a similar picture?
It does. Their standalone balance sheet also reflects zero debt as of September 30, 2024.
So that commitment to prudent financial management, it's across the board.
It is. They're not just growing for growth's sake, they're growing sustainably.
All right, let's zoom in on some specific numbers now.
Okay.
Their consolidated balance sheet shows total assets of Rs 238.2 crores as of September 30, 2024.
Right. And a large portion of those, about 109.7 crores, are non-current assets.
Which are assets that are expected to provide benefits for more than a year, right?
Exactly. Think property, plant and equipment, intangible assets, investments, the long-term building blocks of their business.
Okay, and the remaining Rs 128.6 crores.
Those are their current assets, things that are expected to be converted into cash or used up within 1 year.
So cash and cash equivalents, trade receivables, inventories, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And it's interesting to note that a large chunk of their current assets, Rs 69.5 crores, is in the form of cash and cash equivalents.
Which further underscores their strong cash position.
It does. They've got a lot of liquidity.
Now, what about their standalone balance sheet? How do their assets compare?
Well, their total assets stand at Rs 16.3 crores.
Significantly lower than their consolidated assets.
Right, which highlights the substantial contribution of their subsidiaries.
Okay, so we've looked at the assets. Let's talk liabilities now.
All right. Looking at the consolidated balance sheet, their total liabilities as of September 30, 2024, stand at Rs 70.6 crores.
Okay, and what are their main liabilities?
They're primarily divided into non-current liabilities. Long-term obligations totaling 33.2 crores.
Mostly lease liabilities, I imagine.
You got it. And then there are other current liabilities, which amount to 37.5 crores.
Things like trade payables, borrowings, other financial liabilities due within 1 year.
Exactly.
So it seems like they have a healthy mix of short-term and long-term obligations.
They do.
And overall, their liabilities are well within manageable limits.
I agree. Especially when you consider their strong cash position and profitability.
They're not over-leveraged.
Not at all. And their consolidated balance sheet shows a healthy debt-to-equity ratio, indicating a responsible use of debt.
They're striking that balance between leveraging debt for growth and maintaining a solid financial foundation.
They are. Now, quickly glancing at their standalone liabilities, we see a modest figure of Rs 6.6 crores.
Again, much smaller than their consolidated liabilities.
Right, emphasizing the role of those subsidiaries.
Okay, so wrapping this up, their consolidated and standalone financials both tell a similar story. Strong revenue and profits, effective cash flow management, low debt, solid equity.
All signs of a financially healthy and well-managed company.
They're not just growing, they're growing sustainably.
Exactly. And that sets them up well to capitalize on those vast opportunities in the citizen services industry.
Both in India and globally.
Absolutely. The future looks bright for BLS.
All right, so we've really dug into BLS's financials. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, they're doing well.
But let's kind of zoom out now, look at the bigger picture, right? They're operating in a dynamic industry. I mean, visa and consular services.
It's all tied to global travel trends.
Exactly. And those can be influenced by, I mean, you name it, right? The economy, global health scares, all sorts of things.
Absolutely. Anything that impacts travel impacts BLS.
So understanding those trends, those macro trends, that's key to really assessing their future prospects, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure.
And their investor presentation, they actually highlighted the projected growth in air passenger traffic.
Well,
Yeah, forecasting a 1.5 times increase between 2023 and 2030.
wow, that's significant.
That's a huge potential tailwind for BLS, wouldn't you say?
It is. More passengers, more travel, more need for visas, and all those essential documents.
Exactly. So what's driving this growth, this surge in air passenger traffic?
Well, there are a few factors at play. We're seeing a rise in disposable income in emerging economies.
More people with money to spend on travel?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both leisure and business travel are on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, increasing global connectivity is making travel easier, more affordable.
Right. More flights, more routes, more options.
Exactly. The world's becoming more accessible.
So more people traveling, that obviously translates into a greater need for visas, for passports, all those things that BLS specializes in.
It's a natural correlation.
But it's not just about the volume of travelers, is it? It's also about how travel itself is evolving, what people are looking for.
That's a good point. People aren't just looking for those standard tourist visas anymore.
Right, they're looking for something more.
Exactly. They want long-term visas, residency options. Some are even seeking citizenship in other countries.
It's like the world is becoming this big, interconnected neighborhood.
It is, and that's where those strategic acquisitions that BLS has made, those really come into play.
Like Citizenship Invest.
Yeah. They're perfectly positioned to meet this growing demand for long-term visa solutions.
It's like they're not just riding the wave of increased global travel, they're anticipating it, they're adapting.
And diversifying their revenue stream.
Exactly. If one sector of the travel industry slows down, they've got other avenues for growth.
Smart move.
Now, what about the competition? Who else is BLS up against in this global arena?
So there are other big players out there vying for those lucrative government contracts.
Right. It's a competitive market.
It is, but BLS has a few things going for them.
Like what?
Well, their experience, for one. They've been in the game for almost 20 years.
2 decades? That's a lot of expertise.
It is. They have a deep understanding of how this industry works, the complexities of visa and consular services.
Right. You can't just jump into this market overnight. You need that knowledge, that experience.
Exactly. And they've built a solid reputation for reliability, for efficiency, for good customer service.
Which is crucial when you're dealing with governments, right?
Absolutely. You need to build trust, not just with the governments themselves, but with the people they serve.
So it's not just about winning the contract, it's about performing well, delivering on your promises.
Exactly. And BLS has a proven track record in that regard.
Now, what else sets them apart?
Well, their global network is a major asset. They've got operations in over 70 countries.
Wow, that's impressive reach.
It is. And we can't forget about their technology. They've been investing heavily in cutting-edge tech to streamline processes, enhance security, improve the customer experience.
Right. Their investor presentation, they talked about biometrics, AI-driven platforms, all sorts of exciting stuff.
They're serious about innovation.
Staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And that technological edge, that's what allows them to offer those more efficient, secure, user-friendly services.
Right. It's about making the process as smooth as possible, both for the governments and the applicants.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm sure it's not all sunshine and roses, right? What are some of the challenges, some of the risks that BLS needs to be mindful of?
Well, the regulatory landscape is a big one. Visa and immigration rules can change overnight.
So you've got to be adaptable.
You do. And geopolitical risks, those are always a factor.
Right. Tensions between countries, global events, those can all have an impact on travel patterns and visa policies.
It's a complex world out there.
And then, of course, there's always the competition.
Right. New players are emerging. Existing ones are upping their game. It's a constant battle for market share.
So BLS can't afford to rest on their laurels.
Yeah. They need to stay sharp, keep innovating.
But based on their track record, their financial strength, their strategic vision, it seems like they're well-equipped to navigate these challenges, wouldn't you say?
I'd agree. They've shown resilience. They've shown adaptability. They're a company that knows how to evolve.
So it's all about balancing opportunities with potential risks.
It always is.
And it seems like BLS is striking that balance quite well.
They are. They're a company that's firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, impressive growth, healthy margins, strong cash flow. All those things point to a very positive outlook for BLS.
I think so. They've got a bright future ahead of them.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the fascinating world of BLS International Services.
It was a good one.
We covered a lot of ground, didn't we?
We did. From their impressive financials to their strategic acquisitions, their technological advancements, their global reach, and even the challenges they face.
It's a company that's really at the forefront of globalization and technology, connecting governments and citizens in a way that's, well, it's pretty remarkable, wouldn't you say?
I'd say so. They're playing a crucial role in shaping the future of citizen services.
And we hope that this deep dive has given you, our listeners, valuable insights into BLS International, their operations, their strategic direction, and their potential for future growth.
Yeah, it's a company worth keeping an eye on.
So, as always, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.